Hello, all, and welcome to Here to See the Shelburne, episode 15 of season 2. Another winless Friday at Tolka for the men, but a nice win for the women on Saturday against Bows, at least. I'm your host, Nevin, and joining me, as always, Dunny and Collie. How are you, lads?
Evening, Nev.
How's it
All
going,
good.
Nev? How you doing?
How's it
Yeah,
going?
going well here, lads. I must admit, I was at a family event on Friday night, so missed the game. Saw that it finished 0-0. However, I still rewatched it despite no goals. So that's the commitment we have here to see the Shelburne. It was still fascinating to look over, and given all the comments that came in, I had to watch it because it seemed like a mixed bag of emotions. We'll let some comments lead us first. Dunny, perhaps I'll direct these at you, if you don't mind. So, first comment in from JHF Hive. I think if you were to look at this game in isolation to the other home games, you would have to say it was a strong performance, and we just couldn't find that cutting edge to get one. Looked much better at the back, but having said that, still looked vintage from set plays. And the other comment from Father Dick Byrne, I believe. I'm amazed at the negativity online last night. The team were clapped off, and rightly so. They clearly busted their balls, were creative and lively throughout. Would that kind of sum it up for you, Dunny? It looked from what I saw, it was interesting watching it, knowing the result, how everyone was playing. It looked like we had the right idea. It just didn't quite happen.
Yeah, that'd be my takeaway, Nev. To be honest, and I'd be in agreement with the two commenters there that have written in that I was I was in better form returning from the game than I was sort of going to the match. To be honest, because I was apprehensive, obviously, and
How many scoops did you have?
zero scoops,
Oh,
unfortunately, negative scoopage, but. It was no. I drove home, and genuinely stood in my kitchen talking to some other supporters. When I got home, I was in better form. I was trying to take it not simply in isolation as a home performance, which I think is fair to say that in isolation it was probably our best of the season from whistle to whistle for 90 minutes. It was the first sort of two halved performance I think that we put in this year, maybe home or away, but um, I felt that it was a continuation of the sort of green shoots that we'd seen in Dundalk and in Dalymount as well. That okay, the result, isn't great, but um, the methodology and the approach and the application, I thought were very very good. I'd agree again with the comments about hard work was done, balls were busted, no one came off the pitch at the end, and where you could point the finger and say that person didn't apply themselves, or that person didn't give it their all, or that person didn't try something. Um, we were a little stifled, and look, we might come on to sort of the tactical element of it, but certainly the effort and application and I thought the pace and the tempo right from the off now was really really good. Um,
Mm.
we did rack up a huge amount of passes. We compared, I was very very happy, to see the effectiveness of having less than 200 passes in our previous two games where we picked up 4 points. We had more than 500 against Sligo, but such was the fact that they were just dropping off and but what I liked about it, it wasn't passive passing. It was passing with purpose and passing through the lines, passing forward, um, taking players on, going wide, trying to get crosses into the box multiple times. And we kept up that sort of tempo second half. We came off it a little bit. The second half performance ultimately probably wasn't as complete as the first, but it was unlikely that we were going to get 90 minutes unchallenged from Sligo. So they were applauded off. That was quite noticeable. Obviously, we've come in for people have been dissecting, and whether it's Sam McDonald or other people in the broader media in Ireland have been looking at what's the sort of reception for Joey like. People have been curious to that, obviously, and it was quite noticeable that the players were not just applauded off at halftime but at full time, and I think that their efforts deserve that, to be frank.
Yeah, Collie, would you echo a lot of that? The atmosphere sounded pretty good, like I said, from when I was watching it back. if Sam Bone gets that header in the 93rd minute and we nick it 1-0, it's seen as a perfect 1-0 home performance and we're finally getting a win at Tolka. Obviously, that didn't happen. But would you echo a lot of that? You like the effort? There's no particular player who didn't put in a shift?
Yeah, I have down at the end of my notes to sort of summarize the finish, but I'll start with that now. The way we're after starting the conversation, the
Yeah.
positives are the clean sheet, the Riverside display, the atmosphere for most of the game was well up on other weeks, and I picked up some amazing pin badges of famous Shells moments from the L Reds pin badges. So I was delighted with that. They were really cool. So they were sort of positive. I felt it was our best performance at home this season too, which makes it all the more frustrating because it was there. It was all there. I think Caffrey had a really good game. For a lot of weeks, we've been saying it's not right for him there in that position, but maybe we saw something that has been seen in training that was now executed. I thought he was very strong. But apart from the good performances, you can't take this one match in isolation, and you have to look at it as a continued bad run of form at home, and that is the problem with this performance. If it was a one-off game in the season where you're picking up points all over the place, you go, it was just one of those nights. But we missed a couple of sitters. Dunny did mention that we came a little bit undone in the second half. I felt it was more than a little bit undone at one stage. Sligo got a goal, and I've looked back at it a few times. I think it's very similar shout to Harry Woods against Derry there recently. I can't see the offside.
Look close.
I'm struggling to see it. I do wonder if they had have allowed that goal, would we have lost the game? It's all ifs and buts. It doesn't really matter. What I did pick out when we had, Dunny was talking about the amount of passes we had. We had 44 touches in the box. 8 shots out of 28 were on target. I think the hit rate should be a little bit higher because some of those were weak kind of shots. And also, I think at least one of them should be converted. But look, it was one of those nights. It wasn't for the want of trying. I think every player really went out there with a mission, tried their best. And unfortunately, on this particular occasion, it was a failure. But, and I can only emulate what Joey said. If we do continue to play that way, the goals will come, the points will come, and we will begin to climb up the league. And maybe it is that it has taken us 14 games into the season to acclimatise to having had the shortened season, the European run, and forget the home form for a minute. If you take the last 3 matches, just the last 3 since we won in Dundalk, then the form isn't bad. So we can only go on the facts that it's on an upwards trajectory now. There is an upswing, and hopefully that continues into this week.
How did you find it, Nev? Looking at it on TV, did it seem that we were, passing it quickly enough, looking interested?
Definitely seemed like we were zipping the ball around, and the goal was going to come. I thought what kind of summed up maybe some of the desperation of trying to score. Do you remember John Martin's header? It was kind of like very low, and he tried to turn it around. It was brilliant agility.
Yeah.
But I was a bit like, are these the kind of chances we're going to be looking at? Because it's just Harry Wood playing off him. But then I noticed towards the end, Harry is full of beans and he's going left to right. He's going everywhere. Did we really need someone like Lundgren to come more central when he came on? Like I said, we're zipping it around. The football's good, but maybe could have just done with more. Because I felt like when Boyd came on, not that we lost anything, but I don't think he really got involved from looking at it on TV. Maybe you guys saw something.
I thought he had a great game.
When he came on, I just couldn't get over the fact that was going to be my next question, because I just thought, am I a bit mad to think, great that Boyd comes on, but Martin came off in the 63rd minute. 6 goals this season. I think I was listening back to last week's episode, Dunny. Only got 8 last season, so he's clearly on form. I'll just read one or two comments just to support that. Very short ones. David Hurley, one up front does not work. That's it. Del Kenna played one up front all game and did nothing with it. Gano should have started at right back. That's maybe another thing. But I was just surprised by that. Like Martin, he's trying that mad header, like I just said. He gets goals. He gets these unorthodox goals and orthodox goals. Were you surprised by that, Donny, that we didn't go just too direct, or Lundgren, like I said, off Martin or Boyd, maybe?
Yeah, I was a little, and I was actually surprised looking back, making notes for this evening to see how early in the second half it was actually.
This happened against Drogheda as well, I believe. No, I think that was a Monday, Friday weekend where Martin came off. But anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, just surprising.
And look, and we were very happy with how Martin played, say, away to Bowes. And we thought that maybe him being rested somewhat had helped to give him the extra pep for that. So, however, a little birdie told me as well that Martin might have a sort of an ongoing ankle niggle that he's been dealing with. So that could be something to do with the minutes that's being managed. Obviously, if Freitas hadn't been suspended, I think we definitely would have seen him. And we know that Meepo's still returning to fitness, so he wasn't obviously available. So I'm not saying that Martin was injured. I'm just wondering if that was a sort of an understood thing, that there would be, he'd get the shepherd's hook at some point just to try and make sure that he doesn't re-aggravate or aggravate this ongoing issue. But it did. What I liked from Boyd, funny enough, the best things that I noticed from him was his little tidy link-up play with Harry Wood, the little sort of deft touches around the corner, really, really delicate, nice finessing play, good touch for a bigman.com kind of stuff. What he didn't really deliver, and where people are probably a bit frustrated, is that that's all well and good, but then when the ball is out wide, whether it's at Harry's feet, and he was fantastic and willing to cross the ball on his dominant and non-dominant foot all night with great accuracy and really good balls into the box off both feet. Or when Evan Caffrey, who I thought had his best game in the season, would drive past the player and cut the ball back, Boyd was nowhere to be seen really in the middle. Now, some of those were just deliveries into an area. Maybe Caffrey could have gotten his head up a bit more, or maybe it just didn't fall, which was obviously the case some of the time. But you could certainly make the argument that Boyd was spending a little too much time in the link-up phase rather than at the sharp end of the spear, if you like. And more broadly, as I was looking and taking down the subs and when they happened, there could be an argument made that every sub, apart from the early injury, obviously, for Jack Henry Francis, where Ali Coote comes on, all four other subs, Boyd for Martin, Lundgren for Jarvis, Chapman for McEnroy, and Moore for Caffrey, are like for like. They're like the person who came off was replaced directly by someone who went into that exact same position and played that exact same position until the end of the game, effectively. Although some people weren't sure where Ellis Chapman was playing, he was popping up all over the gaff. But it was a little sort of, the same structure, different personnel. Whereas maybe I think what people are asking for now, although I agree with you, if Sam Bone had scored that header, nobody cares. If
That's football.
I think people are maybe a bit annoyed that we didn't shake it up and be a bit more radical, whether that's two up front or change the formation in order to have a bigger go towards the end. But it did sort of feel in the stadium, and this is why, like, not only as we said that where they applauded off at half time, but every time we won a corner, every time we won even possession back in the 6 minutes or whatever it was of injury time at the end, the crowd were roaring up on their feet. It did feel like it was coming. Sam Sargent on some of the apps got player of the match, man of the match, but frankly, I think he made a couple of good saves in the first half. He was never tested massively for me, as much as he probably should have been. I thought the Sligo defence were excellent at heading balls away and doing the basics that way, but we didn't really, those big chances that you can think of, like Sam Bone's header, went wide rather than hitting the target. And as Collie said, 8 shots on target from 28. I mean, it's still 7 more than Sligo managed 1 shot on target in the whole 90 minutes. Their goal being chalked off aside. So yeah, look, I can understand some frustration because you have to take it in the context of, this is an unprecedented home run without a victory. There's just no way to sugarcoat that. Unfortunately, the next home game is the marker of 50% of our home matches are going to be played. When we finish against Waterford, that's half the season at home gone. Now, the prospect, the possibility that we can play Waterford and not win, and that everybody who's bought us, the thousands of Shells fans who have come every home game and who have season tickets, will have half their season ticket spent and not have seen one home win in that time. After it will be 9 games, then 9 of 18 is, I've never known anything like it. So obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. But even if it doesn't happen, we'll nick it by 1 match. We're nearly at the 50% mark, and of course that's a quarter of the season as well without the home win. So. Look, I'm choosing to be positive and to try and roll it, as Collie said, into those 2 previous performances, and to say that this is the sign of an uptick. And there is evidence there in the last 3 games that I think it would be unduly negative to suggest otherwise. However, unfortunately for Joey and unfortunately for us and the team, the fact that there wasn't a win on Friday means that the pressure gets ratcheted up again now with the Dublin Derby on Friday, which is by no means an easy fixture at all. And then whatever happens there, we still, good or bad, we still have to do the business against a floundering Waterford team who obviously are rock bottom but have a better home record than us. They have a new manager, no new manager bounce yet, but we certainly don't want to be the ones who give them that.
Yeah, Collie, would you agree with a lot of that positivity though? Or
Yeah, I just feel if we were a cat, we've used up our 9 lives.
Yeah,
and we can't afford any more slip-ups. And if you go to Pats this week and lose, you go to Pats and you lose. It happens. They're a good team. But we can't have any more loss of points against the teams around the bottom of the table, or what we perceive to be bottom of the table teams, any longer.
Yeah.
And that's where our season will become completely undone. It won't be in Friday night against Pats away. That when you pick up victories in those games, it's great. If you get a draw, you're happy. If you lose, you go again. But it's
So
the draws
that
against
game, yeah.
But look, at one stage in the match, I counted 9 Sligo players inside the box, and on numerous occasions I counted 9 players just behind the line of the D across the pitch. So that is really, really difficult to break down. I'm not including the goalkeeper in those 9. So basically one other outfielder, and even the striker was 30 yards at that stage. You know what I mean? So we got our opportunities to break it down. We did do that. There was, I would question why not leave Martin on when it's like that. If he has a niggle, well, then that has to be managed, and that's sensible. But there was one stage where Martin had gone off. The ball was whipped across the face of the goal, which the game had been crying out for, and there was no one there in the centre, as you allude to. And I was going, geez, if Martin was there, he's all over that type of ball. But he wasn't. He was gone. And then a second one came in, this time from the left-hand side. And it just got beyond Sean Moore, and I was sort of saying to myself, you know, you can't knock him. He just missed. He just missed it. Like he just didn't get to it. But I think if he had had a few more minutes, a little bit more game time, fellas run onto those balls and slot them away. It's just that when you haven't been playing and you're only getting up to match fitness, they don't tend to break for you, and that's just really unlucky. And there was loads of that in this game, like just loads of it. So you can't put it to bed and just say move on either. But we just have to. That's the problem.
It's so interesting saying that about Pats. Is like I had that down as you guys probably did. Is that a free hit? Is that where?
No, there's no free hits. There's no
not free hits, but like, sorry, wrong phrase. But even
I know what you mean.
Jarvis just seemed way more. Couldn't be let loose in Tolka Park. Whereas against Pats, is like, I go on, try get more involved in the box there. I just felt at Dundalk there was a few lads making runs that you wouldn't see at Tolka Park. Are the nerves there now? Because Dunny, I'll direct this one to you. A comment from Ray Doyle, who is saying the setup is all wrong. Maybe at Tolka Park, we're not getting the best out of our players. Look, everyone played well. Everyone put in a shift. But is there anything you'd like to see more of? I mentioned Lundgren earlier, tucking more inside. Did you find Jarvis was a little wing backy? Is that a word?
Well, he had to be. Frankly, I thought the number 7 for Sligo was probably their best outlet all night, and he was on Jarvis's side.
Was he Fitzgerald? Was it? Or
I can't recall now.
Yeah, but I think it was. Yeah, I know who you mean though. Yeah,
the quintessential tricky Sligo wide man.
Mm-hmm.
And look, they didn't have Hikiki, nor did they have Ryan O'Kane, so we were fortunate enough that they were down a couple of bodies. But what I liked from Jarvis though, I think he's slowly getting closer to where we need him to be. Other people, obviously we'd want him to be there immediately, but look, we've seen this happen before with players like Harry Wood, and look how when Harry did blossom, how amazing he became. So hopefully the same can happen for Jarvis. But again, much like the team more broadly, I do like what I'm seeing, certainly in the last 3 games, a lot more than what was prior to that. And you're right, like the wing backiness of his game had to be employed, because he had to sprint back and retrieve possession a few times, and he did that. He won a couple of throws, or he conceded a throw, but like he got back and he did the job. And look,
but this is Will Jarvis we're talking about,
I know, but there's an element as well of we can't, particularly the form that we've been in, we can't afford a luxury player, because where we are in the table, and look, our whole season, and we were expected to be challenging for a title, and right now even sneaking into 4th place looks like a very tall order. So like, if nothing else, I like to see everybody, including talented attackers, being able to roll up their sleeves and dig in for the team. I obviously would rather him maybe not have a free role, because like I'm saying, I don't think we have the wherewithal to offer anybody a free role at this moment in time, because we're not good enough. But at least if he's going to have to run back from every now and again, and everybody defends, sure, like some of the best striker, Wayne Rooney or whatever, was a dog of a fella when the team lost the ball, and didn't stop him scoring a shitload of goals. So I don't mind that so much, and I'm seeing between him and Harry and other players, Freitas when he played against Bowes and so on, that we're and Coote I thought was good again the other night.
Yeah,
that we are being, it's not like we lacked for dynamism, and it's not like we lacked for attacking threat against Sligo, and the fact that he was taken off, that Jarvis was taken off on 64, probably shows that Joey still feels that he has some limitations based on where his fitness is, or where his form and fitness are together. And look, I'm not too big to change my mind. Lundgren had upset me after what I'd seen when he came on against Drogheda, when the game was obviously falling apart. I thought he gave away, I still think generally he gives away too many frees, But that night in particular, when we had almost no time to get back in the game after their fourth goal, I thought he gave away just unforgivably soft frees when we needed, some cooler heads and we needed him to go the other way. But he came on and I thought it was his best performance in a red shirt on Friday. I liked the way he came in, or sometimes onto his right foot. He was happy to go outside as well. Other times he ran straight into the box, and he looked very dynamic, and he looked very honest, the type of player that we probably, from if you'd seen the few highlights doing the rounds when we signed him, the kind of player we thought we were getting. And some of we probably haven't seen that from him since maybe the first 20 minutes against Shamrock Rovers, where he was tearing up the left wing. So again, green shoots there. I hope it's not a sort of a flash in the pan for him. So look, we have options, and I just think maybe away from home, like that's what we're getting at. We're talking about Friday. It can't not be in the players' heads after 8 games. I doubt many footballers in our dressing room currently have been at any club since they were kids where they've gone 8 home games without getting a win. So this is probably new territory for everybody, and not in a very good way. But away from home, or unfortunately, I just seen that Bows with their win now have slightly better away record than us, just on goals scored. I think
we don't even have that anymore.
Right? We don't even have that anymore. So we can stop saying that, unless we go and win on Friday, of course. But I think there probably is a little bit of freedom, and of course, look, Pats will have an expectant fan base. I see that our producer there says it was Fitzgerald, the number 7 for Sligo, who I thought he looked very good. League of Ireland Player of the Month for April. So you could see every bit of it. He was certainly their most attacking threat all night. But for Pats, they're going to feel obliged, as they do at Richmond Park. Obviously, Stephen Kenny is an attack-minded guy, particularly at home. They're in a good vein of form right now. They're going to have a go at us. Keane Levy's probably going to be running at us early and often, and we're going to have a lot to deal with. Edmondson, is it the new guy up front who broke his duck against us in Tolka, has been going from strength to strength. I think he's probably the league's top scorer right now. So they have an awful lot of firepower, a lot of different dynamics that it's going to be hard for us to cope with, particularly as was Friday only our second clean sheet of the season. It was there at second or third maybe, but certainly they're few and far between. So I don't know if I like our chances of keeping a clean sheet on Friday, but I probably do like our chances of being able to nick a goal or two. So hopefully, whether it's on the counter or Pats have a tendency of coughing up the ball. Their sort of swashbuckling style leads to turnovers quite a bit, and with Coote in form, with maybe, like we said, Jarvis and Lundgren improving, Moore seemed to have a turn of pace from him as well. I was worried for him for a second when he won the ball back on the edge of our box in the second half, and he had about a 50-yard sprint with Sligo lads hanging out of him. I thought that the sniper was going to come out of the bird's nest and blow his hamstring clean off as he was sprinting with the ball, but thankfully he managed to come out from it unscathed. I thought he's good, isn't he? I thought he looked good. Now again, Sligo sat in, and were they too passive for us to really make huge readings from it? I'm not sure, but again, the vibe, it's good for him. He's got to feel better about himself after doing that. I know he played 90 minutes the following day for the under-20s as well. Imbeng played over an hour for the under-20s the following day, so I think he'll probably be involved in the fringes of the squad.
Meepo was on the grass prior to the game as well.
Yeah, Meepo and Imbeng we're seeing doing a pretty vigorous warm up on the pitch pre-match. So things are trending in that way, that if we got, like Collie says, if you go and get any result in Richmond Park and then roll that into hopefully the first home win of the season against Waterford, then we're looking at maybe 5 games unbeaten. Things are starting to turn, and then you could really call call it maybe that you could say something like we've turned a corner, but there's a little bit of, well, there's a job of work, to be
It's a
honest, to be
massive
done.
bend.
Yeah, it's like we're on the turn now, and the next two games, I think, will tell us a lot about, can we have a proper uptick and a push towards the upper middle, or if we don't, yeah, and certainly if we don't beat Waterford, I think we're looking behind rather than up.
Yeah, and Collie, I'm just looking at the comment you've left there in our little chat. Jarvis and Cam struggle to link up, and with Sligo doing what we knew they'd do, sitting back. Do we need to be careful we don't do this again against Waterford? I think Cam, and you said Caffrey had good games, and what they were doing, their final delivery was maybe a little predictable sometimes, as good as it was that they got in those positions. Do you think it's important? That's why I was harping on about Jarvis there being a little deep. I just would have loved to have seen him in some of those Caffrey positions. Maybe he just couldn't make it work on the night. But
No,
do you think we need to learn something from this again for the Waterford game?
No, I think they'll just communicate, and as they play together more, it'll come. But what I think what happened was, sometimes I think Cam needed to play the risky ball to Jarvis and have faith in his ability to have the skills to go round his man or turn him. And instead, Cam might have come back in with a pass into Sam Bone or whatever. And that's okay. He's playing the percentage. He's playing the safety. But I did see at one stage Jarvis sort of have a little bite at him and go, give me the ball. Like, so if he's asking for it, give it into him and see what happens. And then you can have a bite back if he loses it then, you know what I mean? So, and then one or two times just the passes between them, I felt they just didn't link up that well. Now, when it did work, it was very good. It just they struggled at times, but I think that only comes from playing together, and they haven't played together a lot. So it was just something I noticed. It's nothing too big, but
no, I noticed too.
And I thought Jarvis had a good game. I thought Cam had a good game. I thought Sam Bone had an excellent game at the back. Was he lucky to stay on the pitch? I love to see a tackle like that. I fucking love it. It was, if we weren't going to have a goal in the night, that was good enough. You know what I mean? Because it was exciting.
I think I said after Collie, I said he went in for king and country there in the middle of the field. Ellis Chapman leaving him out high and dry with another Zidane spin giveaway. Ellis Chapman probably had his best appearance of the season, certainly.
Do you think you just said a minute ago you thought he was a bit all over the pitch? I was wondering, did you?
Well, he was everywhere, but
was he lost?
Well, like we had so much of the ball at that stage. You know, we didn't need him. You had JJ. Some would argue. I think some in our comments did argue was sitting too deep. So I think there was cover there. And
I think we should address the JJ comment.
Yeah. What I was thinking about Chapman, though, what I liked to see when I saw him do some call it the Cruyff turn. I'm pretty sure he tried to roll his studs both left and right over, which I would qualify as a dance spin. But anyway, we won't get into semantics. He tried it against Bowes and coughed up the ball when it could have resulted in absolute disaster. And Bone read it, and he was in the centre circle, so he wasn't on a yellow, but he probably should have gotten a yellow for that. I can't believe the referee didn't give a free, but the entire Riverside almost kind of laughed. And there was a big intake of breath, being like, "Oh Jesus!"
Well, I loved it.
He absolutely walloped your man up in the air. But after that, Chapman ran back, retrieved possession, won a corner at one stage by making a break into the box. And look, he was lively, or certainly as lively as we've seen him. So
I was very harsh on Chapman last week, and I did feel that, like, oh Jesus, did I really say that out loud? But that's how I felt. And I still, there's no one wants to be proved more wrong about Chapman than me. I want him to be successful, but I just don't know. Sometimes projects fail, and I think this could be one of them, unfortunately. But there's no point in me drumming on about what happened. But it was a bad pass by him that nearly got Bone sent off. You know what I mean? But like, look, it's just there's no point harping on about him now. Like if he come, I hope he goes out and scores 3 against Pats and shuts me up once and for all. You know what I mean? That would be fantastic for him, for the club, for all of us. But I just he does look as our producer is saying, a player that lacks confidence at the moment. And it probably doesn't help that every time he does one little thing wrong on the pitch, me included, goes, oh, like there is that audience groan.
Yeah, that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When the player knows that he's on borrowed time or beyond borrowed time with a lot of fans, and coming on with no confidence, and then that happens, and the first pass goes astray, and you're like, oh, this won't ever change. And look, I'm not sure how much more of Ellis Chapman we'll end up seeing beyond the summer, but that's another thing. You mentioned JJ there. There were some comments in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they should be read out because I disagree with them, sort of.
I do also, especially when we're talking about zipping the ball around. I think there'll be people out there who think it's amazing how a holding midfielder, if you're not like breaking up people, it's kind of like, what does he do? He doesn't do the Makalele role. He doesn't do the Mascherano role. What's he do? And yeah, like, again, people have right to their opinion, but Frank Sherwin wrote in, JJ has a place in the squad, but not a first 11 starter. I would have him in. I'd have him, we're talking, he's obviously above Chapman, for example, and I think Caffrey used to play in the middle, but I don't know what you do with him there. I'm more of again, Lunny fan. I mean, lads, is there anyone else you could think of who might come in and do that role? I think he's vital to the team. He mightn't play the Mark Coyle role that seems to still come up, and we'll move on from it. But I like the way he fizzes the ball around. I think, honestly, one of the first names on the team sheet for me. And I know people might say you're mad, but honestly, what do you think, Dunny?
Yeah, well, look, he's been at the club 7 years. Himself and Cam are the longest serving players, and it's hard to please all the people all the time. And I think what I've noticed, and I heard some people behind me in the Riverside on Friday who just seem to have a vendetta against certain players, and it's almost as if they'd rather that player X or player Y proved them right rather than played well sometimes. And I don't, it's almost like they have it tattooed on their brain that they've made their mind up about this fella however many months or years ago, and no amount of evidence is going to change their mind, and they literally can't see the wood for the trees when good performances are literally happening in front of their face. So,
when he was out, we really missed. I think, if you remember that.
Of course. Look, JJ is not going to smash them into the top corner from 35 yards, nor is he going to do the sort of the rough and tumble stuff that Mark Hoyle does. But we need to get beyond Mark Hoyle. By the way, it's getting tedious.
Absolutely,
the amount of people who keep bringing up his name. But when it comes to the number 6 role, you're right that we're light in that position. JJ does it, and does it with a bit of quality. And I think maybe people mistake his sort of a laconic comfort on the ball for being slow and lazy. Maybe sometimes that when he doesn't look, you know that meme of the Indian street food guy who's just constantly busy and moving his head and hands around, but no work's actually getting done. I think sometimes people would prefer that you look busy, but JJ looks like he's wearing a pair of slippers and a smoking jacket a lot of the time, and that's the game that he has. And there's not many JJs. There's a reason that we've kept him for 7 seasons. You know what I mean? There's not many players who have that kind of. He's not maybe as creative as Chris Forrester, but again, that sort of laconic style on the ball where it's like, I'll do it in my own good time, and he can kind of read things before. He should, by all other measures, have his pocket picked all the time because everyone else is herring around like madmen, and he sort of takes his time about it. And I know, look, the other night in the 93rd or 4th minute or whatever, JJ gets the ball and passes to the left or to the right, and people seem to think that he's doing it slower than everybody else. I don't think that's true, and I think the 90 plus minutes that he gave was on Friday was a very good account of himself. The only other player I think that we have in the squad who could sit in and maybe do that role, and if we were to employ, say, the quote unquote double pivot in there. That Jack Henry Francis is probably the only guy who could really do that job. He has said before that he sees himself as that number 6, but or he certainly played it before. But again, he's got a bit more of that creative side as well, and he's certainly not an out and out spoiler or a destroyer in that way. And look, maybe we will sign one of those guys, and maybe I think probably what it is projecting maybe from some of the fan base that okay, we did lose an enforcer in Mark Coyle, and we didn't replace like with like. But I presume that was an intentional thing. That was intentionality on behalf of the management team, who decided that they wanted to try and upgrade, if you like, to a more to players in there with more natural football, with more attacking football. We might have to. I certainly wouldn't begrudge us going into the transfer window at some point and getting someone who's a little more fundamental when it comes to a holding midfield role, and certainly the squad. We could do it maybe one more, because if JJ was to be out for a prolonged period of time, if he was to fall into if he was to become the 8th at last count player to suffer from a hamstring issue this season, we would be struggling to fill his boots, I think.
Yeah, interesting to say Jack Henry, because I think when I went down to Sligo away, he was the holding midfield that night, and I had a great game. I suppose, Collie, last thing we'll say on that, I suppose you'd agree on that if Lunny's playing holding mid and spreading the ball, and you've got some attacking midfielder beside him, pinging in 5 or 6 this season, then Lunny looks like a god. It's seen as like a great dynamic, a great relationship. He's doing fine though, isn't he? Like I like what he's doing. Are you a fan, Collie?
Yeah, I am. Because people were bemoaning Meepo. I think we saw he was missed, and sometimes certain players, you don't miss them till they're gone, and I think Lunny could be one of those players. When he's not playing, will all of a sudden go, where has that role in the pitch gone, or who was doing that? Where is it? And you'll be like, and then you'll realize, oh, it was actually Lunny was holding that together. So that sums that up for me. I don't know, I haven't heard, but if Jack Henry Francis is now injured, we're going to be seeing a lot more Lunny. So get used to it.
I assume Jack Henry, that looked like it was about the 25th minute or so.
Might have been precautionary more than.
Yeah. Hopefully we'd Ali Coote to come on and fill his boots. But look, we Pat's away this Friday in the fortress of not Tolka Park. So hopefully not so much a free hit like I said earlier, but look, hopefully we can do something, because they're kind of getting away from us. Them, Bows, Rovers, we need to really start taking this. We are taking it seriously, but we need to start catching up with these lads. But look, we'll get on to some positivity, because the women had a great win on Saturday in the Cup. It was good to see some rotation. I think Kiva Keenan started. Watkins and Walmer were playing.
Rachel Graham started, yeah.
But also Severance Dunny got a break, which we were hoping for. I was watching it there earlier, so I rewatched the whole thing. It was Walmer down through the middle in the end, wasn't it, from the start?
We were. I actually met Collie behind the goal on the day. We were trying to sort of figure it out in real time. The Hardy Bucks, who were behind the Ballybock goal.
Fine day for it. Yeah.
Look at my sunburn.
Yeah,
is that what that's from?
it's fabulous. Yeah, look, I've banged the drum many times, and I'll continue to bang it that Saturday afternoons in Tolka, when the weather is fine, it is absolutely the place to be. And 406 people agreed with me and went along, and it was a very enjoyable afternoon. Weather was good. The libations were good, and the goals were good as well, and obviously the result to match. But we were trying to put our finger on. We obviously started with no recognised striker, and what it looked like to me was it was sort of a fluid enough system, depending on what side of the pitch the build-up was coming, that if it was on Becky Watkins' side, Walmer would sort of come narrow and become the focal point up front. and vice versa. That if it was coming up Walmer's side, then Watkins would come across narrow, and then she would be again at the tip of the spear, as I said earlier, talking about Boyd.
Right. Yeah.
And it was Watkins, of course, who opened the scoring early on after 7 minutes. But for me, the goal of the game, a lovely incisive through ball by Alex Kavanagh, and it was a beautiful ball. But Becky still had lots to do because the Bows defender was right there on top of her from the second that she collected the ball. She had to use strength to hold her off, to get her into sort of shooting range in the first place. And we had the best viewpoint in the house because it was happening right in front of us in the Ballybock there. I didn't think she had any natural angle to play with, really, to pull the ball with her right foot back across the goal into the left-hand post. But somehow she managed to make the angle and do it so it either went under the foot or through the legs of the covering defender, who, as I said, was with her every single step all the way to the finish. And not only did she get it past the defender, but of course past the outstretched arm of the Bows goalkeeper as well into the corner. So a really fantastic finish from her, and all of the makings into the goal were a delight as well. And look, that's great for Becky, because as we've discussed on here in the past couple of weeks, it's been the Maeve Walmer show for a little while now, and Becky Watkins has gone from being, the headline grabber to playing, somewhat second fiddle to Maeve's kind of breakout moments. And it was great to see Watkins being able to remind us all that she is an exceptional player on her day herself. And it was a great start to the match.
Yeah, well said. And Collie, it wasn't a bad second goal either, was it? From the corner
I'd
kick.
just like to say about that first goal, Rachel Graham's tackle before it came to Alex Kavanagh was great, good tackle as well. It's what you want to see, you know what I mean? It was a real experienced player's tackle. Then it broke to
Dublin Derby.
Alex Kavanagh, and then that pass, exceptional pass.
We'd love some of that on the men's team, wouldn't we? That kind of through ball. I thought it was just inch perfect.
Yes. But then the second goal, it's not just Rachel Graham scoring corners. It's now Avian Clancy as well scoring corners, and in the same competition, funnily enough. But I would say, as I said to Dunny that day, I said the wind is not as high today as it was in Waterford. So it was almost a better corner. You know what I mean? It was, and it has to be said that the women's corners have been really strong in general this season. Scoring off them, putting them into an area that's tough for goalkeepers to come, and then also just creating chaos in the box when they do go in. But then, and then if they just go in direct, well, all the better. It was great to see. I think that's the first time I've seen a goal from a corner live. So that was nice.
Are we going to use it's? I saw.
I can't remember the name of it.
One of the official accounts. I don't know if it was the FAI account or the Women's League, but I had it sent to me by Barry Crossan because I had used the phrase Olympico.
Oh yeah, Olympico.
I'm again.
No.
I had to learn. I had to hear it, so you all have to suffer as well. But yeah, that's Katie McCabe was the first time I'd heard the word Olympico at the World Cup.
Yeah,
and but like this is the thing, and we were saying it last week, Collie, that our deliveries from wide set pieces, our deliveries from corner kicks, for a long time have been excellent with the women's team. We've seen, as you said Rachel Graham, Leah Doyle, exceptional delivery. And now Avian Clancy as well. Alex Kavanagh can also obviously ping any set piece. And it would be, I know some men would maybe look down their nose and go, well, like there shouldn't be goals going in direct from corner kicks. But like it would be silly to not try at least one or two of them a game.
Someone said that to me in the ground when I left you, when I went back to the main stand. And I said, that's nonsense. Because if you were at an under 14 boys game, 15s boys game, they're roughly the same height as women. If that happened in the men's game, under 14s or 15s, you'd be giving out to the goalkeeper, or you wouldn't critique it the same way you do with the women's game. I think it's very wrong when people do that. It annoys me.
Yeah, I mean, you got to use every advantage that's available to you, right? I mean, it's just a fact that on average, women are not as tall as men these days, right? and have never been. But like the funny thing is, and I know that the people on social media usually might call for, when in England, particularly when the Lionesses were doing very well over there, and there was a lot of it on TV, they'd say, oh, the goals should be smaller for women's football, so you don't see as many lobs or things like this. It's the same for everybody. You should use it to your advantage. If it's that easy to score, then you should be getting 10 a game, right?
And I thought we liked long range goals. I thought that's what we watch it for.
Yeah.
Crackers, all that stuff.
I also think back, like men weren't always this tall. The phenomenon of people being frequently over 6 foot globally for men is a new thing. When football was codified in the 1800s, and it was decided that the goals were going to be this size, the average height of the average man was between 5'6" and 5'7", which is probably small for a women's goalkeeper now. You know what I mean? So I guarantee you, from the people who gave us the beautiful game, would have seen many lobs and many Olympicos before some fool decided to call it that. But going back to year dot when football was invented and rules were put on it. So look, if you can't appreciate a ball swerving into the top corner from 30 yards, then I'm sorry, stick to the snooker or something. But I was delighted to see it. We kind of came off it a bit, Collie. I felt after that
we did.
We thought we were sort of taxiing in, I think, to a 2-0.
And not for the first time this year, we've handed a goal away. Like we played them in. You know what I mean? For their goal. Now there was still a lot to do. I don't know her name. Her name escapes me, but she slotted it home.
Savannah Kane. She's some Shells fans out there probably know her dad, but she went from Bows to Shells. She had a year with our 19s, I think.
Okay, well, she slotted the goal away when we played her in. She slotted the goal away very well. It was a well-taken goal. I see our producer saying it was a terrible goal. Yes, it was a terrible goal from our perspective to concede. But look, she still had a lot to do.
We saw it out, and as you said, like, we weren't at full strength. I don't know if how much rotation Bows were. I know they're short a few players, and frankly, they're in a terrible run of form. They haven't won a game in any competition in quite some time, and they got absolutely mullered by Sligo Rovers 5-1 in the league the week before.
I have a question for you, Dunny.
Go on.
So Mr. Russell had his post-match interview, and basically he said we didn't play great, that like it was one of our worst matches, but isn't it better to this? I'm sort of surmising what he said, but isn't it better to play badly and win than it is to lose, and we ground it out in the end or whatever? And it was a hard fought win. So you've said the same there, but what I'm wondering is, do you think he's made it harder for himself with some of the selection that he made there, or the fact that I like with only one forward who, like, I know we're harping on about it again, but his selection on the bench when we were 2-1, Bows were starting to creep back into it. We seem to have a limited selection in how to change the game again in our favour. What do you think of that?
There's a couple of things there. I noticed that Sive Hartley scored another brace the following day for our under-23s, who have now gone to the top of the league. So in 6 games they've drawn the first and won the next 5 games in a row. They won 6-0 at the weekend. As I said, Sive got 2. She's their number 10, and that was against Athlone Town, who had previously topped the table. So that's a big win by every metric imaginable. And look, Sive wasn't in the squad, but like this is senior squad, I mean, on Saturday, whereas players like Hallie Harcourt and McCaffrey were in both squads, who play similar positions to Maeve Walmer, Becky Watkins, that sort of wide attacking role, which we seem to be, oversubscribed in, quite frankly. I was a little, and I have been a little surprised at the lack of Hallie Harcourt's involvement for about a month or so now. She obviously was the talk of the town, becoming the youngest ever senior goal scorer for the club, and just doing very impressive things both for the international team, underage teams, and looking very, very lively when she came on for ourselves. I'd be loath to sort of say like someone like that should be in the team or should be getting X or Y amount of minutes, because like these are, and I have to sort of check myself, and I think as a fan base maybe we have to remember that these are very young girls, a lot of them who are still in school, and it's not the equivalent of saying someone like Freitas or Lundgren or whatever should be getting more minutes. You know what I mean? Like, this is a girl who's going into school every day and has homework and has exams and all the rest of the trials and tribulations that comes with being a teenager, and is trying to balance her burgeoning career in football. So these things can get in the way. You can have ups and downs, and you can't be throwing 15, 16, 17-year-old girls in every week and expecting them to be maybe super consistent or even being in the right sort of maybe mental space to perform. So I'm not speaking about anyone in particular, but more generally there, that when I instinctively feel that I'd like to see more of Hallie Harcourt, for example, I'm wondering why not. She's there on the bench. I don't know. Is there something behind that where he's obviously working with her, several times a week and is in a better position than I to make that call? Again, I would be slightly curious as to why the striker who's scoring a bunch of goals for the 23s isn't sitting there at least with them on the bench. For example, if there was an injury, or if Bree is to get injured, I don't know what we do. I presume he's kind of showing his hand, I think, now on Saturday last, where I think this is probably what we're going to see. Not D'Amico up front maybe, but this kind of revolving Walmer Watkins dynamic. And look, it was good enough against a Bows low on confidence in a secondary competition. But the big girls come to town on Saturday and go away top of the table, unbeaten. Obviously, every league game they've played, they've won.
Did you watch their goals at the weekend?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I was oversubscribed to Shell's content at the weekend, making it to both games. But like, it's going to be a test, and it's going to be a very different test than the one at the weekend. So I see our producer here is telling us that Noelle Murray has gotten off the mark for her new club in a 3-2 loss to Cliftonville. So look, I was stealing myself for a while that was going to happen. It was a matter of when rather than if. So yeah, look, Noelle Murray has the same amount of competitive goals this year as all of our strikers combined. But look, we are where we are. I know Kate Mooney is on track to come back. I just hope that we're still, and a win on Saturday will go a long, long way to being, thereabouts. I hope that we're still on the coattails and having, a good season when she's back in the fray, and if she can come in, hopefully hit the ground running. Because frankly, for me, that's kind of the only piece we're missing. Because I think we have improved in probably every other area of the field, or at least stayed as good as we were last year. So it's just that final piece for me that unfortunately is a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, hopefully we can see sight of Kate Mooney at Tolka Park or another ground very soon. Good win to get, lads. I think it's great to have a Dublin derby like that and try out a few players as well. It's actually kind of blessed to get a bit of both with such a big game coming up this Saturday. against Galway. I think it's at 4 p.m. A few of the games are 3 p.m., but we're at 4 p.m. Really want to encourage people to get down. This is massive. Galway, 6 from 6. You probably heard us mentioning before. So they are not running away with the league, but in good form for sure. And I think they won 4-1 at the weekend. And they have a couple of people bagging hat tricks now and then. So they're in form. Confidence is high. So like I said, Saturday, 4 p.m., Tolka Park. If you can get down, if the weather keeps up like this, why wouldn't you go? Lads, I think that's about it. I think we can leave it there. The men, as we touched on, have Pats away on Friday. Massive game that we'll cover next week. Unless anyone has anything else to bring up, we can kind of leave it there.
Oh, I think I just echo your sentiments there, Nev. That this is a huge game on Saturday for the women. Look, we know Friday night's going to sell out. The tickets go on sale Tuesday or 7 p.m. The link will be live for season ticket holders. But the crowd that we had for that 1-0 win over Bows was magnificent. I was annoyed at myself after we came off air. I undersold the crowd by 10. I said it was 778. It's actually 788, which meant that the comparison I was making between that and the highest crowd that we had gotten at the men's team 10 years previous. So it actually eclipsed that.
The 0-0 Longford game or something, was it?
The Longford game, yeah. So the women have already eclipsed that. So 788 was at the league game against Bows. On that Sunday where the plaque was unveiled beforehand.
Yes.
And look, 400 odd for an All-Ireland Cup game is not to be sniffed at as well. I'd be surprised if there was many with more than that around the country at the weekend. But to really look, we all can attest to how enjoyable Saturdays are. But this is one where the team could really do with us. Galway are going to be the strongest team, probably certainly that we've played this season. But I think we'll be the strongest outfit that they've faced as well. So I don't know if it's a must win. I think I'd probably have it down as a must not lose, because obviously going to Eamon DC Park is very difficult, and there's already that gap there that Galway have pushed out. They have conceded some goals. Their performances haven't been flawless from whistle to whistle. So I think that we can certainly get at them, but we need everything going in our favour. Obviously, Kate Mooney won't be a part of it. So look, we could do it absolutely everything on our side of the ledger, showing up on the day. So anyone who can get down to Tolka for 3:15 when the gates open on Saturday, please do so and get behind the team, because this could really be a springboard for the season, or it might lead to us having to reevaluate and aim for that second new European spot that the runners-up will get this year.
Dunny loves to talk about the vibes on a Saturday. So, but what I'd say, I'd like to second that. Pat O'Callaghan sponsored the match day ball last week, so we all made a day of it. We had a great day in Tolka on Saturday. The weather was good, and just the general vibe, as Dunny would put it, was great. It was really enjoyable. And to an extent, it's better than watching the men's games at the moment, So
the one disappointment, lads, I think that I'd have from the weekend was I bought about half of the new Heritage range, the new clobber, which I really love. I think it's one of the best all in ranges that we've done, and I took it home, put it on, looked in the mirror, and unfortunately, I still look nothing like Rodrigo Freitas. So. I dressed up like him, but unfortunately, the sexiness of the man does not transfer through the threads. But I'd urge everyone actually to get their hands on them, because they are flying out the door. A lot of sizes already gone, and I know that I was talking to Kieran in the shop at the weekend. Very very brisk business there, and there's some new sizes and stuff coming back in next week. But
I like that crest. I love that crest.
Yeah. The shield looks great. It's a little bit different, a little bit more fashion oriented rather than just training gear, and just from my own friendship groups and so on, it's gone down an absolute storm. So great to have women's sizes and things as well. It's for a bit of a bit of fairness there. So absolutely, I can't remember a time when there was as much good stuff available online and in the club shop. So everybody should get on that before it's gone.
Well said, Dunny. So yeah, like we said, everyone try get down Saturday, especially if you want to see Galway manager Phil Trill, or if you want to see myself, Nev Gill, and get your Tolka Park Phil. I'll end it there, lads. That was cringy. Thanks everyone for listening. Dunny, Collie, thanks a mil, and hopefully see you at the weekend.
Cheers, lads.
Here was, see you, lads.